And I was watching the game. This was one of the scariest moments I've ever seen in all my years of watching any sport. You never want to see a player out cold on the ground, no response. It didn't even look like that bad a hit, but obviously something happened with his spine or his neck. They're saying it's a spine injury and he'll be out about 2 months, but you really don't want to mess with something like this. He gives the thumbs up there, which is always good, but that's certainly a scary, scary sign for any Celtics fan and any person who participates in the sport of basketball. It really shows that you're at risk whenever you step on that court, and the smallest things can really be an end, or not an end, but can be a serious setback and a serious injury.
Yeah, I mean, Daniels, he's a bench player, so obviously it's not the biggest loss they've ever had, but, I mean, anytime you lose a player, that's always big. So I definitely think that was a pretty big loss, and he's been a pretty big bench player so far this year.
And so a pretty scary thing as a Celtics fan. The injury is scary itself, but then when you look at all the injuries that this team is stacking up, I mean, we've had Shaq not 100%. Jermaine O'Neal hasn't been there. Perkins is just coming back from his long injury. Now you add Marquise Daniels to that list. You had KG hurt before, Rondo hurt before. I think that it's safe to say that injuries are a constant theme with this veteran and getting older Boston Celtics team. But do you think that they'll be able to put together a run in May and June, or do you think injuries are going to be the downfall for this team?
Well, you look at it, they've maintained a lead in the Eastern Conference all year, and I mean, they've lost Garnett, they lost Rondo for a couple weeks, and they were still able to maintain their lead in the conference, so I think that gives you a lot more trust in your bench. And I mean, even last year, you look, fourth in the East, everyone thought, first, second round team, ended up pushing to Game 7 in the finals, so I think if you lose a few players, then yeah, you might hit a slump, but right now I think the Celtics are healthy and they'll be all right.
And we were lucky enough last week to talk to Sports Illustrated writer Ian Thompson, and he said that the Celtics, they need to stay healthy, but the one player that they absolutely need to stay healthy is Kevin Garnett. He's the catalyst of that defense. He controls the whole entire defensive motion. And when he was out earlier in the season, the Celtics really didn't have their flow. But if they have the essential players in here, and that's Garnett, Pierce, Allen, Rondo, and some players to fill in the gaps, like Baby or Kendrick Perkins, Marquise Daniels once he's back, maybe a Shaq or Jermaine O'Neal. If they have a couple of them, I really think that they are not only a competitor, but they're my favorite to come out of the East and even to win the NBA championship. They face the Spurs. They already beat them. They are 2-0 against Miami. They've lost a couple to Dallas, but those are close games and they can go either way. But in the East, they seem to have a hold on these teams. They've now beaten Orlando. Orlando's certainly a competitor in the East every single year. And the other teams, Chicago, they still have to deal with their old assistant coach, Thibodeau, doing a great job out there with that young team, them dealing with injuries too. But I really think that the Celtics are the clear-cut Eastern Conference favorite right now. You agree with that?
Definitely. I mean, you look at the two games they had against Miami. Obviously Miami's been favored to win the East, but they haven't even been really living up to their full potential. I think that's big for the Celtics because they've been feeding off everyone else's mistakes. So I definitely agree with you and think they're the team to beat in the East.
And something that kind of annoys me, not only as a Celtics fan, but just looking at the NBA in general. Celtics are 2-0 against the Heat. They have the best record in the East, but everywhere I look, people are saying how good the Heat are. You look at the power rankings, Heat are going to be number one. Even I was playing NBA 2K11 on my Xbox a couple days ago. Number one team, the Miami Heat. They don't have the best record. They're not even the best team in the East. How are they the number one team ranked everyone says that they're the best team, but it doesn't matter who the best team is statistically wise. It matters the best team on who can come out on top and who can win games. And at this point in the season, I really think that the Boston Celtics are the best in the East. We jump to the West, which is a whole mess. So many teams. You got the top teams, the Spurs obviously up top, but then you can never forget about the Lakers or Oklahoma City with their young talent there. You even got the Dallas Mavericks, the Nuggets if Carmelo's situation kind of gets back intact, although it doesn't seem like they're going to have much hope come later if Carmelo leaves. Who do you think's the leader in the West right now?
Right now, I think it's clearly the Spurs. I mean, they have such a dominant record. They're not the youngest team in the league, but they're still, playing at a great pace. They still have single-digit losses. I definitely think they've been a surprise this year, and they're really holding their lead. I think they are the team to beat in the West.
And they are certainly a great team at home, and if they can hold on to that number one seed and secure home court advantage throughout in that Game 7, I mean, you can look back to last year, Game 7 at the Staples Center. That could have meant the whole thing. The home court advantage for the Lakers, in my opinion, that won them the championship. If that game was in Boston, I think the Celtics would have come out on top. And a team like the Spurs, who plays so well at home and has been so dominant so far with their senior talent, with Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and Richard Jefferson and Tony Parker, you put it all together. I think that the two best teams in the league right now, the Celtics and the Spurs, they're two older teams, and they're beating the young guys. They're beating the young, quick point guards, and somehow they're coming out on top. Do you think that they're going to be able to hold it up come June? You actually think that these two teams are the best two suited teams to make a run for a NBA championship?
I think when the playoffs come, it's like starting the whole year again. You have 8 teams in each conference that are literally just starting the year over. Like I said, the Celtics, they were the number 4 seed. No one thought they were that serious. Ended up, again, pushing it to Game 7.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you look in the past, the Spurs haven't been deep-run teams. They obviously have a few championships last decade. But, right now, I think as of now, these two are the two teams to beat in the league, and you can definitely see an NBA Finals matchup.
And so now my last question. We see those two teams clearly ahead of their own conferences. Who's the one team, East or West, that can really be an upset team and maybe is a young, quick team that people might underestimate, and this team might beat the Celtics or beat the Spurs or beat the Lakers or beat the Magic, the Heat, whoever? Who's that one team that really you got to watch out for and you can't overlook them?
I think right now it's the Chicago Bulls. I think they're
Yep.
definitely underrated. No one really talks about them that much. They have Rose, they have Noah. They have a lot of good, and they have a nice bench. So I think right now they're the team that you have to watch out for.
And they are so good right now, only 15 losses on the season. And Carlos Boozer is not even played. This guy's an all-star. He puts up a double-double every time he's on the floor, 20 and 10 most times. And he hasn't even played. He's missed over 15 games. You get this guy back in the lineup, and you have the great coach Tom Thibodeau, who came and was the defensive mastermind for the Celtics during their runs the last couple of years. How can you count this team out? I really think that as a 4 or 5 seed in the East, maybe even a 3 seed, they are a team to watch out for, and if you overlook them, you're going to be in some serious trouble.
I definitely think they're the most underrated team in the league right
Yep,
now.
and they are young with Derrick Rose leading the way. They got their veteran talent with Carlos Boozer. They seem to have the whole package, and they're certainly a team that everyone needs to watch out for. But that's going to do it for us here on Back Talk Sports. For Sam, I'm Max. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.